Let's look at the political implications here. What consequences could GOP senators face for not backing the big, beautiful bill? And let's start with specifics, because the consequences to Tom Tillis are kind of now null and void. He said, I'm not running. I'm going to go get a consulting job or retire. You know, he'll get a consulting job or retire regardless of whether he votes for this. I'm looking at Rand Paul. And so David, the question becomes, would Donald Trump actually primary or use his mechanisms to primary Rand Paul?
They certainly have a collegial relationship. They go back and forth, and differences. Would he primary him? Yes, because when you look at this, and I mentioned dynamic scoring and Rand's arguments, and he does what his father did, and I knew his father for many years, and he would use a silo argument only based on something that fit the argument. Rand's doing the same thing, and it's a bit disingenuous. At the same time, he's been known to be the flop or the fold, I think that's the word, that comes around on these bills when he looks at the bigger picture. Mitch McConnell is about to be out. Rand Paul, if he wants to be the senior senator in Kentucky, does not need upheaval when even some of the more moderate independent Mitch voters, the ones that supported Andy Beshear and the Beshear family over the decades, were not that thrilled about him. So his primary and his chances could become a problem for him. And a vote for Trump would solidify the growing base in Kentucky for him.
Madison, I'm glad David brought up Ron Paul, because if you look at Ron Paul's history, he was not a Republican for every single one of his years. He definitely vacillated into libertarianism and the like. Could you ever see Rand Paul becoming an independent and maybe caucusing with the Republicans?
Oh, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, he's done well as a Republican, even as the party has changed with President Trump. So if necessary, I'm sure he could, because he's definitely someone who will stick to his beliefs. I know a big issue for him is the debt issue, which many Republicans obviously also take issue with. Would he need to switch to independent? I don't necessarily see that happening, but if that was the path forward, I'm sure he would take it. I think he's someone who at the last minute could change his mind, but he's really drilled down on this deficit issue, which I think is a good point, because even, what Chad was just saying is the case. Events happen, and we just look at the last 2 weeks, there are things that come up. So, the Senate bill increases the deficit by $3.3 trillion, according to the CBO. And then you have senators like Mike Rounds of South Dakota saying, well, $4 trillion will be added to the economy. But I think there's a lot of senators, Paul included, that would say it's still not good enough because we're taking on too much debt.
Molly, I'm glad in your question for Chad, you tried to get names. And one of those names was Lisa Murkowski. Yeah. And I wonder, how much pressure does Donald Trump have over Lisa Murkowski, somebody who he has been attacking for years? And she somehow manages, based upon her name in that state, to always come out ahead of the game, at least when it comes to winning elections. So how much pressure does he ultimately have on her?
Well, it's interesting because another senator that we perhaps should be watching as the vote-a-rama gets underway is Senator Susan Collins, kind of in the same vein, from up in Maine. And she's talked about how she voted to move things forward procedurally, but that she wants to see changes, that there are some very good changes that have been made in the latest version, but I want to see further changes, and I'll be filing a number of amendments. So there are a number of Republicans really, that have been independent and have been willing to cross the aisle and cross party lines that are going to be interesting to watch as this gets underway before things head back over to the House.
With both of those names you mentioned, Collins and Murkowski, you have the rural hospital issue with Medicaid cuts, and that's a concern. So the question becomes when. I've been working a lot. We had a little bombing thing on the last weekend. I had to come in. I need next weekend off. I need July 4th off. So my question for you is, when are we going to get this thing, Dave?
If they're able to complete by tomorrow, I think some of the projections are around 11 a.m., then it could go to the House on Tuesday late or Wednesday early. So it is possible to get the vote ahead of time. As far as rounding up the votes, the work being done in the House has been successful so far to bring people around. I've been to some of the GOP conferences to cover them when the congressmen get together. And I think they're a little bit more aligned in the House than people think. Look, the Salt Caucus is arguing for the Salt Caucus. They know they've lost that argument. As for the senators, Murkowski and Collins get heavy union support. Mitch McConnell's about to be out. Ranked choice voting is on the table. Now, again, in Alaska, which takes Murkowski out. So they have to consider their political future without Sugar Daddy Mitch being the leader in the Senate.
Got to go to tease, but quickly, do you think we get it by the 4th, yes or no?
I think we do. I think the Senate passes it Monday. The House will be hard-pressed to not go with Trump.
Molly, are you watching the Pops or are you watching the bill on the July 4th? Because
Well,
you're from Boston.
The president was asked about this by Maria Bartiromo, and he said, will it happen? He said, I don't know. He said, whatever it is, as long as we have it, it's very important. So I don't know that it really matters if it gets the 4th or if it's next week or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday.
They need it soon because business owners need some certitude as to what they do, as Madison well knows. Coming up on this jam-packed big weekend show, more Iranians are arrested this week as the nation is on high alert over possible sleeper cells in the U.S. But first, Democrats are drooling over their socialist mayoral candidate, but New York City singles, they ain't feeling the vibes.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.